Oh man, what a day. I'm telling you. I don't know. Do you ever have those days where you're like, morning everybody, now they come to live, spirit and coffee, got my coffee. Oh, okay, there. Those days where you feel like blah, and it just doesn't matter what you do, you just feel blah. That is how I feel today. And I was trying to be presentable, so I thought, oh, I'll put on this really nice color lipstick. And I was like, I look like poop. So I just feel like I look like poop today. And I guess everybody probably has those kind of days. Anyway, it's one of those days for me. I perhaps maybe after I do my Kundalini workout or whatever, then I'll feel better. But I just feel blah. Like, it doesn't matter what I do, I don't feel good. It's really awful. Okay, so no one's on here, so no one can tell me if that's how they feel. But later on, if you want to inbox me and be like, girl, that is how I feel sometimes, please let me know. Also, if you're here on Facebook, say good morning so I can say good morning to you. But yeah, I wonder if men have that kind of, where they feel like they don't, like they try on different outfits, or is that just like a woman thing? I don't know. I think, well, no, I have a friend who does that, tries on 500 different outfits before they make a decision. But there's always this time where it's like, I just don't like anything that I put on. I look awful. I feel like I look awful and everything. Oh God, why do our minds do this? Why does it even matter? It doesn't matter. Okay. There's my little rant and rave of Natalie being real when she's just feeling blech. I feel blech. Okay, we're gonna get into chapter 1 of the book. It's like, let's get to the point, lady. I'm not here to talk about how you feel blech. We're here to talk about dark emotions, which I guess is blech. I don't know what emotional state that would be. Maybe it's like self-rejection or something like that. Or you're like, oh, I just reject myself at this point because I don't feel good. Okay, anyway, let's go. So Listening to Pain, chapter 1, I'm reading from the Healing Through Dark Emotions, the Wisdom of Grief, Fear, and Despair. And the first chapter is where we're at. I left yesterday with reading the 2 opening poems. I don't know if they're poems and what they are. Maybe short stories. I don't know what you call them. But I started by that. So I'll start with those again, and then we'll get into the chapter. Okay. So help us to be always hopeful, gardens of the spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth. As without life, nothing flowers. The evocation of Kali. Okay. Blessed are men and women who are planted in earth, in your garden, who grow as your trees and flowers grow, and transform their darkness into light. The Odes of Solomon. Odes. Okay. For some 30 years as a psychotherapist, I've listened to painful stories. When people come for the talking cure, they generally wear their heart's pain as a badge of shame. They believe that they are suffering because of some core defect resulting from bad parenting, and that therapy will rid them of the defect and take away their painful emotions, hopefully forever. Many have the idea that if you could stay the course and complete a complete cure in psychotherapy or read enough self-help books, they would achieve a life completely free of suffering. Okay, again, people are trying to get out of suffering completely. Good morning. Who's on here? Please say good morning. I need some love today. I just need a Yoda hug. A baby Yoda. It's not Baby Yoda, someone told me. Well, I watched it and I know it's not Baby Yoda, but I call it Baby Yoda. Okay, the truth is more in line with the famous biblical observation. Man is born to sorrow as surely as the spark fly upward. Okay? So no one gets away without some share of it. We all grieve life's inevitable losses. We fear the inherent uncertainty and vulnerability of existence. And increasingly, as a population, we are familiar with the despair of troubled relationships, unexpected traumas, inner emptiness, a global degradation, and terror. As much as joy, wonder, and love, these dark emotions are a part of our human endowment, however much we may sometimes wish that they weren't. So we wish that they weren't a part of it, but it's a part of the story. And that's what, again, I've said this a trillion times, but spiritual alchemy doesn't deny the existence of dark emotions, it utilizes it. And that's really, once you're able to understand how to utilize your dark emotions, right? And they talk about manifestation, that's really the manifestation of life itself. We become to appreciate the beauty, that the full beauty that life has to offer, even in its pain. Good morning, Lewis. And so that is why dark emotions, to get through the dark emotions, becomes sort of the power within us to fuel and ignite that ability to move forward, to be the driver of something that puts us into action, in joyful love, kindness, whatever it is, okay? The Baal Shem Tov, a legendary 18th century Jewish mystic, thought that to master our sorrows, we must know how to fully immersed in the emotion, yet not ruled by it. I call this process the alchemy of dark emotions. Knowing how to stay connected to the energy of painful emotions, to attend and befriend it, to surrender to it mindfully without being overwhelmed. This is how we listen to the language of our heart. I love that. Good morning, Roberto. So again, it's the language of our heart, right? That's how we listen to the language of our heart. Our emotions have a language. They have a way of communicating, right? If they didn't, we wouldn't be experiencing things, but we are. We experience it. Why? Because they have a way of communicating with us. They have a way of giving us some sort of a signal or a sign, or a, people always say, follow your gut, follow your gut, follow your heart. Well, what does that even mean? Well, it just means that the emotional states give us some indication. That's how they communicate. They communicate through a process of some experience within our bodies. And that experience is igniting something. It's telling us something. It's giving us some clue, some information. But we haven't learned how to read our emotional states of being. We don't even know how to read them. Like, I literally have asked people, hey, where do you feel that in your body? And they're like, I feel good. I'm like, well, no, because good is not a body part. What? None of that sentence had any body part in it. I said, how do you feel it in the body? Oh, it feels nice. Wait, no, where? Not what, where? Oh, okay. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my, okay. When you drop into that emotional state, right? Hi, Mighty. And you look at that, right? It's the emotional states of being are communicating something to us. Um, so I just cited because I love Baby Yoda, okay, Gorgon or whatever, but I call him Baby Yoda, okay? So don't get mad at me, Star Wars fans. I watched The Mandalorian just because I had to see what was up with this Baby Yoda. And I really feel that experience, right? I feel the Baby Yoda. I can feel, like, I look at him and I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel internally, the way that Yoda looks, this Baby Yoda. And I'm like, the Force, right? Well, what is the force, right? They say the force be with you. The force is everything around us, but the environment around us, if we talked about like the force, right? And I kind of like, that's why Star Wars is awesome, because they talk about the force. Well, the force is all of the energy that's around us and how we harness and feel the energy through our body and allow it to move through us. That is the power, right? But then there's some emotional response that comes to it. And I know that in part of the, if you guys are watching The Mandalorian or not, I don't know. But I like movies and I like to at least relate to them. So in the Mandalorian, right, he sees the Jedi, and the Jedi, he finally takes him to another Jedi, and this girl says, you know, like, I can't train him. He has too much fear. And that fear can then turn him to the dark. And then he can start to be destructive in ways that are not good. Like, I've seen it happen, right? And I'm sure she was talking about Darth Vader or whoever. I don't know who she was talking about. I'm sure that's who it was, Anakin or whatever. Okay, so, but we're looking at, like, what do they mean by the Force? Like, harness the Force, like, understanding your fear. It's learning how to work with that emotional state of being. And at some point, right, this baby Yoda sits on the rock to meditate, and this harnesses the energy of the Force within, right? That's really us looking at our emotional states of being and saying, how do I harness that energy and work with, in conjunction, right, to harness that energy with the life force itself to propel me forward, right, in harmony. But if we don't deal with it, then what we end up with is we end up placing our emotional states of being, or creating things that we necessarily didn't want to, or didn't even, we said, hey, if I do this, I'm going to cause harm, right? I'm going to cause harm to people. And that's what we've seen in history. We've seen people throughout history who have not maybe dealt with their emotional states of being, and they have held in the anger, the frustration, and before you know it, they're out there, you know, murdering people, hurting people, genocide. You know, it's so it ends up coming out in a way, no matter what. Even if you say you want to hide it, it doesn't matter. And so we see that these individuals who hold in these emotional states of being, instead of harnessing it, right, and utilizing it and transforming it into something beautiful for their life, for themselves, and then perhaps for their community, and then, or their family, and then their community, and perhaps for the world itself. And that's where the transformation starts. It starts within you. It's harnessing that emotional energy. So I like The Mandalorian because it did talk about that emotional state of, like, fear, right, can drive so many things inside of us. And if the shame or the fear gets so big inside of us, they come out as anger sometimes. And that anger is probably the craziest out of all of them, because that anger can be misdirected in places that are, and they can be put in places that are so harmful, right? And that's what we see happening today. You know, people are not, they're angry, right? There's angry people out there. I mean, I've had people be angry with me. And that anger, good morning, Prince. That anger then gets what? It gets directed out, and it's like, boom, hit in the face by something. So again, it's looking at how to harness that energy. How do you harness it? Okay? Not get rid of it. At such times, it becomes clear that there is no way out but through. Healing through dark emotions is the opposite of arming ourselves against a sea of troubles. It is a shamanic journey to the dark emotions underworld, where the only way to master dark emotional energy is to experience it fully. So that's what they do. And if you look at, you know, the Jedi, the Force be with you, right? It's the it's harnessing that. Even if we looked at all the characters, I mean, here's the deal: the people that write this stuff, right? People are like, wow, how do they write these scripts? They understand spiritual alchemy. When you start the journey of spiritual alchemy, you'll understand it's a process, and it's a process that's natural, based on natural law. And so it can't be denied. It's a story that we see through the experiences we have through life itself. That's the harnessing of the force, right, around us, to witness or be witness to the life force around us. So it's, and people say, well, it sounds so magical and mystical, and it sounds that way. And it almost is in some ways when you look at the mysteries of life and you really look at life itself, the process that it goes through. No, I mean, think about a tiny weed that has to force its way through the concrete, what's the story of that particular weed or that plant? What struggles did it have to go through? Or if we look at nature itself and we see these animals that are prey, right? And their predators are out to get them, but their survival depends on them, being. So again, it's that internal thing, right? They're not sitting there crying. They're saying, okay, I know I got to survive. So I have to overcome my fear. I've got to walk through it. And, I was watching this, it was like Earth something on Earth, planet Earth, I guess. And there was these dragon, they live on a volcano. I don't know what they're like little dragons. And so the snakes, right? You should have seen all the snakes that were living here on this volcano. And then the dragons, in order to live, when they hatched, right, they had to run to where the elders were, but some of them didn't make it. But they, if they stood in fear and they just sheltered in, they would never survive. They had to be exposed. They had to be vulnerable. They had to run out into the open. And the snake might have got them. And that's life. I mean, it's life. Did we make that up? No, we're just witness to it, right? We're witnessing what life has to offer. Because I didn't create it. I certainly didn't create it. Right? So we look at like, okay, well, God created it, or it just was. Well, that's fine if it just was, but there's still an unfolding happening. We're still seeing something unfolding through time, which is something that we witness is time, right? We witness time. And so in the witness of time, we're experiencing something. That experience is unfolding within us. And part of that unfolding and experience is dark emotions. The suffering, the fear, the how do I move forward? How do I allow myself to open up so that I can actually grow and move forward? It's scary. I had a conversation with a friend. It's like, I'm afraid of the unknown. It's dark. I don't know what's in there. And what I'll offer is that there's always light. So I said, well, what happens in the dark eventually? You're in the dark, right? And if you walk into a dark room and you can't see at first, what happens over time? You start to be able to see things. You adjust. Your eyes adjust because there's always light. Even when there's darkness, there's light, right? They call that the hermit. So the hermit is I think it's a huge thing in alchemy. It allows us to go into the subconscious mind, but it also, it has a reminder of that the lamp is there for you. Like there's always the light is with you. And the light can guide you. You just got to believe that it's there. Okay, so that's basically what it is for dark emotions. We're coming through. Okay, so the good news is that dark emotions can serve as guides on this journey when we know how to listen to them. Through listening is not always, though listening is not always easy, is an art that can be learned. Like most things, it becomes easier and we get better at it with practice. It's like learning to swim as a child when the water is inviting but also frightening. If we want to swim, we must listen to our bodies. We must learn all the different movements, the arm stroke, the leg kick, the head motion, the synchronized breathing, and how to coordinate them. But in the end, it comes down to taking the risk and plunging in. Then filling our bodies in the water, we notice something wonderful that helps us overcome our fears. We are buoyed up. The water holds up and carries us. We're buoyed up and the water carries us. Okay, so again, it's like jumping into the pool. Some people put their toe and they're like, ooh, no, I ain't jumping in that one. I am like head first. Hi, PBG. Hi, Cheryl or Sherryville. I don't know if you guys are still on here because you guys are hopping on and off. I jump straight into the pool, head first. Hey, Judy. So yeah, I'm the kind of person who'll jump right in. I don't even know what's in the water. And I did this as a kid even with the real water. Like that's what I did. I would just jump in. I was always the first one in the lake, the first one in the whatever it was. I was jump right in, just not even care, go for it, right? For some people, it's scary. It's that surrender, right? It's the surrender of having to, um, you know, let go and the unknown. Like, you don't know what's under your feet. You know, my mom doesn't swim. She's afraid of the water, and she's afraid because she's afraid of the unknown. She's afraid of like her feet not touching the bottom. She's afraid of what might grab her feet. I don't know. I guess I just, as a kid, didn't care. I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna jump right in the lake. Who cares what's there? Sharks and all. No, sharks don't live in the lake, but you know what I mean. I just didn't care. Okay, I did it in the ocean as well. Just jump right in. So that's scary for some people because it's like, well, what am I gonna face, right? And so jumping into the subconscious mind or to our dark emotions, not is just as scary, just as frightening as jumping into an ocean of sharks. Like, am I gonna get devoured? Are they gonna eat me alive? What's gonna happen? Oh my God, it's this big mystery. I don't know. Okay, so it was with the emotions that make us feel most vulnerable: grief, fear, and despair. These dark emotions are in the body energies, um, mediated by the beliefs we have gathered from the culture of family society around us. Their purpose is not to make us miserable, drive us crazy, or shame, weaken, or defeat us, but to teach us about ourselves, others, and the world, to open our hearts to compassion. Yes, to help us heal and to change our lives. I love that. Open our hearts to compassion. That's a big one. These emotional states allow us to have compassion for one another. How do you, well, how does it help us have compassion? And the way, good morning, Auntie Christine, the way that it helps us have compassion is that we recognize that we're not alone in suffering. And I think oftentimes people may forget that, right? I think sometimes we go into our corner of the world, we're going through our emotional suffering, and we think we're alone. And you know, so oftentimes we think we don't have anybody there, and that nobody else can understand the emotional pain and anguish that we've gone through. Well, they may not understand your particular pain and hurt, right? It may not be your particular pain and hurt exactly because it's your experience. However, they understand because they too have gone through suffering. And that's the beauty of this world. Good morning, Willis. The beauty of this world, right, is the fact that we all together have sort of gone through some sort of suffering. And that's where the compassion comes in. The compassion to look at each other, our brothers and sisters, and say, look, I get it. I have suffering too. I get it. I've lost someone I loved. I get it. I've, been through that divorce. I got it. I've, had battles with my children. I got it. I've had, whatever it is. I've struggled with my own health issues, or, whatever it is that the suffering is there, right? Or the emotional pain is there. And so that's where the compassion arises when we not make ourselves wrong for feeling these emotional states of anger, pain, or frustration, or hurt. And shame is the biggest one. That for me, it's like understanding shame, just shame in itself. People constantly making you wrong for who you are. Good morning, Scott. Oh, if you're on here on Facebook, tell me good morning. Sometimes I don't see who's on here. Just drive me nuts. But that pain, right? That pain internally that we feel, it's we're not alone in it. Everybody has a story. And the shame that people saying, hey, you're wrong for doing this, you're wrong for doing that, you're this, you're that, right? And then some people feel like they have to prove their self or their self-worth to somebody. It's like the other day, this person was like, well, come meditate with us. And this is an interesting story. And I said, okay. I was excited. I'm like, oh, maybe I found a crew of people. Like, because I'm a loner mostly. I'm mostly by myself. I'm alone a lot. And, my spiritual practices are mine. And so I have never, like, I can go to a church or something and pray with other people, but that alone time. But it's always nice to have a group of individuals that you can connect with. And, I was like, come meditate, right, for the solstice, for, the alignment of Jupiter and Saturn, and come. And I was like, wow, that sounds nice. Harness that energy, right? The life force. And so I wasn't able to make it. I said, well, you guys have another time that I could go? Sure, we meet at this time. And then it was like, well, but here's a video. Now watch this video. And I'll invite you into this group when we know that your intentions are right. I'm like, doesn't sound right for me. Doesn't sound right for me because God knows me. God knows my heart. And to have to prove myself to another person, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to prove myself to people. I'm here to prove myself to me, to be in service to others, but also to connect to God. That connection to God, that individual connection is what I'm here for. To learn from life, to let life be the teacher of my existence, because God gave us life. Life is our teacher, and part of that is, heart. But I could be like, oh, I have to be a part of this group, and if they don't accept me, no, I don't have to be accepted by other people. As long as God accepts me, I'm accepted, and that's all I need to know. So for me, I love them, I pray for them, but I'm not going to have to go somewhere to prove myself, because I can tell you this. Did it in the past, especially in education. It's been a God hard time for me in education, right? It's not been easy. Me coming to my master's program and then getting my PhD eventually, not an easy task. It wasn't just handed to me. It wasn't just like, hey, this is, people ridiculed me. They shamed me for my thought processes. They didn't want to accept the way that I saw life. It wasn't the way they saw it, and so it wasn't correct. And I had to prove that I was worthy to be a part of these people. And I was like, why? I'm not here to prove to anybody. I'm here to love. And if people can't accept that, that's okay. You don't have to accept me. I accept me, right? And that's what spiritual alchemy is about. That is what healing through the dark emotions is about. It's about being able to say, you know what? I accept me for who I am. I don't have to prove anything. As long as I know my heart is good and God is with me, and I'm doing things with the intention of love and kindness, that's all that matters to me. I don't have to prove it to other people. People are people. Like, who are they to judge? It's like, who the hell am I to judge? No one. I'm no one, right? But there was that connection where it's like, oh, we have to judge you first before you get in here. Even with my PhD program, like, you have to be this or you have to be that. And I was like, you know what, maybe I just won't get one, because I'm not going to be treated, right, like I'm not worthy enough when I know my own worth. And I understand that I am a child of God. And all I want to do is give back to humanity. So I know those things about me. I don't have to prove that to somebody else. I'll just stay in my little corner and do what I need to do. That doesn't mean I don't love these individuals, but I don't need to prove myself. And I'm not going to. I'm not going to do that, right? Because then you end up shaming yourself for not being good enough or not being worthy enough, And that's what it is. You are worthy. You are enough. You do matter. So there you have it. Beautiful Wednesday, and Christmas is almost here. By the way, I love Christmas, like one of my favorite times ever. I'd love to see the lights, and I love Christmas music, and I love the jingle, jingle, jingle. And everything about Christmas is just delightful. So, I will be on here. Hopefully you guys will come on and join me, but I know you're probably with your families, and that's okay. But always know that I love you. Bless me. I know that I'm here for you. And if you need support going through the dark emotions, I'm going to continue with the book. It's Healing Through Dark Emotions, right? This book is amazing. I just highly recommend it. Healing Through the Dark Emotions, The Wisdom of Grief, Fear, and Despair by Miriam Greenspan. And she's just amazing. So I'm going to continue on chapter 1, and it's called Emotional Phobia, and how we sort of start to open up the floodgate to allow those dark emotions to come up and arise through us and work with them, okay? So I love you guys. Have a very, very wonderful Wednesday. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow.